Greetings, my children, and welcome back to Mentoktober, a series of videos specifically crafted to spook the children of Mentok. As you know, coming from the future, I am a connoisseur of older games, a lot of which I've played in my childhood. So allow me to tell you a story about 5 games that have been burned into my memory, based on specific moments that traumatized my childhood. These were games that I opted not to play at night, mainly because of their sensitive content that gave me genuine spooks as a child. That means that none of these games in this lineup are technically horror games. These are games that were just unintentionally scary. And for those who don't want to watch the whole video, I'm putting those 5 games in the description. I'm being good guy Mentok. If you don't have the patience for the entire video, the 5 games are going to be down there. So check that out, guys. But if you watch the whole video, I'd love you for it eternally. It's best to stay on the good side of a time traveler, right? Number 5, Castlevania, Symphony of the Night. Castlevania Symphony of the Night probably goes down as one of the most popular Castlevania titles of all time, and is probably one of my favorites in the entire series. So let's put the nostalgia glasses on for a minute. This was a massive game for its time. The time I spent running through the castle collecting items and trying to figure out what the heck was going on was probably a good bit of my childhood. But before getting into this game, it took me some time to get used to the mechanics. This was my first venture into the Metroidvania genre. All in all, I look back on this fondly. Even though there are some disturbing monsters in this game that you face, you are the overpowered son of Dracula, Alucard, who's gone to see his father in Castle after all these years of sleep in a previous title. I believe it was Castlevania 3. So after he's investigating why his father has returned, or why it seems like his castle has returned, he gets his items taken away and you have to start from absolute scratch. This requires you to pick apart the castle and basically arm yourself to defeat Dracula and his minions. Now that's the short story of it, but we're here for what traumatized me as a child. No, it's not these bosses, it's not Legion, it's not the difficulty behind it, even though I hate this asshole in particular. It was the fact that I had no idea what I was doing, which led to a lot of deaths in the very beginning of this game. And let me show you how traumatizing that was for me as a kid, seeing this. Why? None of that is necessary to convey the idea that I died in the game. Why are you putting me through that? Especially as a young kid, that made me put this game down for quite some time before I actually revisited it and found out it was a great game behind all this torment. To add insult to injury, none of that's skippable. Especially the end with the bones staring at you of some demon. You can't skip that. You can mass start as much as you want, but you're not getting by it. And I'm sure it's been modded to death at this point where you can actually do that, but back in its original state, that was impossible. This game is great. If you haven't played this yet, please do yourself a favor and check it out. It's really cheap on PS4 right now, I believe, in one of those collections. Definitely a game you shouldn't miss out on. Number 4, Tomba 2, The Evil Swine Return. Mentok, how could a game about a guy with pink hair going on an adventure to save his girlfriend traumatize you as a child? I'm starting to think that you're losing your credibility here. Well, bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of my favorite series of all time from the past. This is an adventure game that has an unrivaled amount of style. The Tomba series, also known as Tombi in Europe, was an adventure game that required you to move around as a nimble young boy named Tomba who had pink hair, and you did a bunch of quests for people and collected items and fought a bunch of pigs, I guess. It was a very zany thing for the time, but it just had so much charm to it. And this game in particular was probably popularized recently because of an awkward moment at one of the Games Done Quick conference. So if you've seen this video before,
so confirmed Santa's #1 helper is a squirrel.
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
you probably are familiar with this game. But Tomba 2 possesses a couple of environments that have really stuck to my brain the last however long ago this game came out. And it is in particular a forest known as Donglin Forest, cursed by one of the evil pigs that you're gonna take on. The music and the environment speaks for itself.
Wait a minute, this shit kinda goes hard. Someone put a beat to that shit.
And the Donglin Forest wasn't exactly the most traumatizing portion of this game. No, there's more parts to Tomba 2 that are anus-clenchingly tense. The final pig that you take on has control over time, and he decides to stop time for the entire world. The entire world goes gray, and there's no one to interact with in this game anymore. Everything is frozen, and you have one soundtrack in the back as you traverse through this black abyss of nothingness. And it was my least favorite part of this game, which is why I took such great pleasure in whooping this last pig's ass. Get in the bag, son. Goodbye. Still, I can't recommend this game enough. If you're looking for some classic PS1 action, this entire series is good. Tomba 1 and 2 collectively are great titles to jump into. And I'm not entirely sure if these are easy to find, but if you can snag a copy, please give it a try. I still haven't found a series comparable to this game to this day. And if there is one, please leave it in the comments, because I'd love to play something similar to Tomba once again. Number 3. Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of Orpheo's Curse. Okay, so I know I said I wouldn't be doing any horror games, but this one really needs to go on this list because this is probably the shortest game that took me the longest to beat ever. And that is because I kept having to turn this shit off, and I could not play it at night. Not because my parents weren't reasonable, no, it's because I could not physically play this at night. This is Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of Orpheo's Curse. Based on the popular children's TV show Are You Afraid of the Dark that was running in the 90s, this is a DOS PC game, which is a point-and-click adventure, taking place in the same Are You Afraid of the Dark universe, which revolves around a bunch of teens who call themselves the Midnight Society, who go out into the woods and share scary stories with one another. This is another one of them, and they involve you, who is a new person in the Midnight Society, to be a part of this story and tell it yourself. So it kind of launches you in as the person telling this story overall, but you don't really feel that way because you feel like you're experiencing the story as one of the characters in the story being told. So seeing this was my first point and click adventure at the time, being involved in first person for a horror game just was a horrible idea for a child. I shit you not, this is how the game started.
Come on, let's leave. There's nobody around.
Alex, I'm not giving up so fast. Let's keep looking.
Why? Okay, I gotta give this game credit where it's due. It does a really great job at being atmospheric, and the first person view totally nails the chilling factor of you going around this theater. And the whole premise of the story is that you're trapped in an abandoned theater with souls from a past time that are stuck there because of a curse. This includes a wax museum, basement, cellar area, catwalks, all types of really creepy theater-themed horror with a bunch of ghosts that inhabit this place. And I say atmospheric because there's a lot of quiet corridors and empty hallways, but at the same time, there are things like wax statues sitting around, and you never know which ones could be alive. And yes, you can get chased in this game. That is what freaked me out the most out of anything else. Not that headless thing I showed you earlier. You can get chased by stuff.
You think you can really escape me?
This is all trial and error. So if you're not picking the right path, you're gonna get caught. Why? So I'm sure these graphics don't have the same effect on children now that they did back in the past with these DOS graphics. But you know, there's something to be said about what was done with this amount of technology. They managed to get real actors and basically slideshow their way into scaring the shit out of people. Why am I surprised? This is the same series that gave us this.
What's the matter, kids? Can't think of jokes?
Jesus Christ, at this rate I'm gonna go crazy myself. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Tale of Orpheo's Curse. It's a very vintage DOS game, and if you guys are interested in point-and-click adventures like this, I would say it carries the atmosphere pretty well, and even though the graphics are a bit outdated, I think that atmosphere still holds up pretty well. But I won't be playing this game again anytime soon.
Number 2. King's Quest VIII, Mask of Eternity.
The King's Quest series is a popular old-school point-and-click adventure series created by the team at Sierra, who were popular for a lot of point-and-click adventures in the early 90s, including the King's Quest series and Space Quest. Each of these games carried very specific rules where you would have to explore and pick up items to solve different problems and avoid death in several different situations. I was a late bloomer to this series. I didn't actually get to play the rest of the King's Quest series, so for Christmas, I received King's Quest Masks of Eternity. And from a glance at the cover, it looks like a typical adventure game for the PC that I would have enjoyed. I found out much later that this was created by a very different team who were trying to change the King's Quest series after all the other previous installments. A curse is cast upon the people of the main character's city of Daventry, and everything seems ready to go, right? This is how it was greeted. Again, I ask, why are we doing this? This is supposed to be advertised as an adventure game, and it starts as a freaking Resident Evil style horror game where you don't even have a weapon. You have to go back to your house and find like some type of fruit knife to come at these monsters with. I take one look at the front cover of this game, and this is not what I expected to be the bar for entry. So again, this is another one of those games that took me some time to really get into, and I enjoyed it for the most part, but I had to get past this initial section. No one wants to be in a village with Friday the 13th music playing in the background as all your villager friends are turned to stone and there are goblins flying out of every crevice of every building trying to kill you while you have a fruit knife to kill them back. It's like the intention was to traumatize people, and it worked for 9-year-old me, or however old I was at this time. Am I ranting now? Not to mention, the next stage is basically hell. So there's that. It gets an honorable mention because I was prepared for the bullshit by the time I reached this portion of the game. Yeah, f this game.
Number 1. Tomb Raider 2 Demo.
And we've reached the last game on my list, and everyone's probably wondering how the heck this one made it. And more specifically, the demo? What's going on here? So those who remember, if you got a PS1 when it first came out, you'd get these collections of demos, and Sony would include the demos with the PlayStation. I specifically had Volume 7, which had a bunch of great games. That's how I discovered Tomba in the first place. But there was also Tekken 3, Gran Turismo, and Tomb Raider 2. Hearing a lot about this series, I decided to jump in and give it a try. Imagine a young boy who is always used to Genesis graphics, Genesis enemies, things dying in one hit. For example, in Sonic you just jump on stuff and they die immediately. So you start the demo and you have to take out a Rottweiler that's pretty fast in itself, but it goes down after a few shots. You're feeling good. The controls are very awkward because it's 3D. It's your first time playing this type of game. You walk down this corridor ready to beat some people and holy shit, look at this guy. It's freaking Michael Myers from Halloween. Look how many times you have to shoot this guy for him to go down. If you don't know how to play this game, this is where you die. Hands down. You get piped down by some horror movie flick looking, like even the graphics doesn't make it clear that that's just a man. After you murdered him with several bullets, not only you gotta worry about that, there's a guy up on the balcony as well. Right, exactly, more murderers. Now you're wondering whether this guy is gonna come down and come kill you, but he stays up there. Even still, it takes an incredible amount of shots to take these people down, and it's scary. For a child like me, who is used to Sonic, where you just hop on enemies and they pop in one go, this was a traumatizing experience for me. How do I keep moving through this demo knowing that this is what I have in store? I'm sure you guys noticed that I put demo on the listing instead of just Tomb Raider 2. There's a pretty good reason for that. I played this demo and decided not to buy Tomb Raider 2. Tomb Raider is definitely an iconic game. It was a very progressive game for the time, but still, I could not bring myself to play this knowing that you have these horror flick villains just waiting for you around every corner. And at the time, these graphics were like some of the best around. So it's just like, you know, when you're a kid, your imagination goes 100% over the limit. Look at this. Yes, when you get to a certain part of this demo, another guy pops up here. It's crazy. And this is why Tomb Raider 2 demo is #1 on this countdown. Well, my children, are we spooked yet? If this video hasn't spooked you, I at least hope it enlightened you a little bit to the wonders of the past that you can absolutely go check out at any point in time now. Also, this video was a lot of work, and I'm having nightmares already just editing it. So much more to come in the month of Mentoktober. But in the meantime, until next week, the Prophet has spooken.
You can really escape.